what's the point? Why have I done that? And it's a blunt question, but ultimately the principle's important, so that people feel that they're valid, that they're doing something that's being noticed, recognized for its worth, and is usable and is productive, irrespective of the teeny tiny niche that some find themselves in.
Hello there, I'm Sarah McCluskey, and this is Research Adjacent. Each episode, I talk to amazing research adjacent professionals about what they do and why it makes a difference. Keep listening to find out why we think the research adjacent space is where the real magic happens. Today's episode with the awesome Jenny Brady is coming up shortly, but I've just got a few announcements. Firstly, I have loved creating this podcast, chatting to all my amazing guests and connecting with you lovely listeners, but it is a lot of work. So I'm switching to putting episodes out fortnightly instead of weekly after today's episode. The next bit of news is that you can now follow the podcast on LinkedIn and Instagram as well as Twitter. It's at ResAdjacent, RES Adjacent everywhere, and you'll find the links in the show notes for the podcast. And finally, I'm delighted to announce that my new monthly newsletter, Research Adjacent Roundup, will start coming out during the first week of every month. It'll include podcast updates, of course, as well as interesting articles, reports, things like that, which are relevant to the research adjacent world, as well as tips and resources to help you navigate your research adjacent career. The first episode will be out in the first week of May, and you'll find a link to subscribe in the show notes on your podcast app or on the website. If you're already on the podcast mailing list, you'll stop getting the weekly episode emails and you'll get the monthly research adjacent roundup instead. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. So come on over and join the Research Adjacent gang. We are super friendly. So now, on with the show. This week's guest is Jenny Brady. Jenny is one of the wonderful people who's come into my life since I went public with the whole Research Adjacent idea, and it turns out she lives just down the road. After we'd bonded over our matching Whitley Bay posters, and check out the show notes for a picture, and our love of post-it notes, we got on with the more serious business of talking about what she does. Jenny is a freelance researcher, developer and business coach based in North East England. She focuses on supporting researchers to show up with authenticity, purpose and confidence, as well as helping them to connect to the potential real-world value of their research. We talk about the importance of a playful and curious approach, as well as the highs and lows of being research adjacent when you've never actually been a researcher. Listen on for your opportunity to tap into her positive energy. Welcome along to the podcast, Jenny. Lovely to have you here. Could we begin by inviting you to tell us a bit about what it is that you do?
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me. What do I do? It's the big question that's always sometimes quite challenging to answer. I am, if I had a name badge on, I would be a researcher, developer and a business coach. So I have had very many years of working with researchers to support them as researchers, professional people in the research world. I also have my own business coaching practice, but the clients that I work with, I specialize in those who are self-employed, running their own businesses. They're at growth stage. However, they are also connected with the research world in some way as well. So the two main things that I spend my time on are quite happily linked, although they require different focuses and different skills and different people. There is a thread that links them together as well. I also run an MSc for Portsmouth University, so I'm their online tutor, which allows me to work with fantastically interesting people from all around the world. So I'm busy, productive some of the time, busy all of the time, which is joyous. So I am self-employed, and I revisited self-employment from October 2021, and I'm still standing, I'm still alive, the bills are all paid. So far, happy days. Yes, all good.
Excellent. And so how did you get into doing this kind of coaching and training work?
I think it's quite a long and winding road, to be honest. I think I've got what's now described as a squiggly career. There was never a straight line. There was never a thought one morning of, this is my calling, this is what I'm going to do. I've done all sorts of wild and wonderful things. I've run city centre bars. I've had my own award-winning gift shop in Leeds. I've been a startup business advisor at several different universities and working with social enterprises as well. And then fast forward a little bit of time up to Newcastle University, where I settled into a longer term career. I was part of the career service there, and I was an enterprise advisor, which basically means helping people to spot opportunities to solve problems and making it happen. So making positive change happen, doing something about it rather than just discussing it. And I had the brilliant opportunity. I was super lucky to work solely with researchers. So I had the chance to specialize. And initially I thought, oh my goodness, I have no idea what this means. And it was a challenge because it was just me in quite a large team, but my specialism was researchers, and I'm not a researcher, never will be. I'm at peace with that now. That's okay. I've made that as a choice. But yeah, I had the chance to specialize working just with researchers across the university, and it was all subject areas, all stages of research, and then eventually into working with staff as well, which was a whole new world and really interesting. So I've learned an awful lot about people from doing those roles. I left the university at Newcastle in October 2021 and went back to self-employment because I'd always had one foot in the self-employment world. I hadn't fully committed 100% to being a full-time employee. And that did me good, to be honest, because it gave me some perspective as well about academia and how it fits into the rest of the world. And so those people and skills and experiences that I had from working long-term at Newcastle allowed me to open so many new doors in self-employment. The people in particular were incredibly supportive and haven't looked back since, really. So there was an element of, let's go and see what that is. There's a shiny thing over there. Let's go find out what that means for me. I've said yes to a lot of things as well. I've said no to a few more things more recently, which is, I think, always an interesting place to be. So there was an open mind all the way through, and some of it was suggested that I do certain things, certainly within my employment role. But the rest of it, I've just stepped up and said, oh, what's this? Can I help? And it's opened lots of new doors and things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought that was my thing, but it turned out that they were. And I've had a really fun time doing most of what I've done. Yeah.
You make it sound like a very smooth transition, but I'm sure there have been some bumps along the way.
Yeah, there really have. And I think everyone at different stages in careers and in life in general will think, what am I doing this for? What's the point here? I think the main challenge is certainly working in research development. For me, although Newcastle University in itself is incredibly focused on supporting researchers as people, the culture there, the work behind it is trailblazing, to be honest. There are plenty of universities across the world who are awesome at this, and Newcastle stands up strong with them. In terms of challenges, I think for me, because I'm not a researcher, I'm not in the research world. I'm interested in the people. When you work as part of a research intensive university or institution, it can very much be about the outputs. What's the point of doing the work? So my challenge came from a broad perspective about who are the people. Let's focus on them. Let's have some insight into what makes them tick, where their challenges are, where their successes are, and let's champion a bit more of that. So my challenge was to come in and start making that more of a focus. And I was part of a big team that made that happen. So it felt really important to do that. But every day that helped pop a little bit of imposter phenomena in my head. And that was my personal challenge along the way, because I'm not a researcher. So I was given this opportunity and thought, my goodness, these are the academic elite. These are the ones who are changing the world. How can I help these folks? And that became a bit of a sticking point in some ways. I think I paused when I could have stepped forward sometimes, but I had a bit of a word with myself. My coaching expertise came in, and I had a little word with myself and said, what's actually happening here rather than what feels is happening here? And it allowed me to wake up one morning and say, actually, it's all right. I know what I'm doing. I know what the point is. And because it's human centric, it's people focused. There's always an opportunity to help and to learn from these people and not feel like I need to know the intricate detail of their particular research in order to feel credible. And the day that I had that word with myself, it unlocked an awful lot of opportunity, so that I felt that I was okay to be in the room and actually to stand and to share my experiences and to help people talk about theirs. And that again connected to the culture of the researcher community, not just about what's the research doing and how do we measure that success, but who are the folks behind it. And that was awesome. And it stuck with me. That was a really big challenge to overcome, that's actually helped me make some good decisions ever since, and to be quite vocal on behalf of researchers to say they're riddled with imposter phenomena as well. What's going on there? Let's make sure that doesn't become the driving force for decision making, that actually everybody realizes that we've got something to offer. So I had my own little wobble there, but that turned into actually quite a happy focus.
I think some people, and certainly I've often thought this, can make the fact that they're research adjacent but not from a research background, that they can turn that into a real strength. I think are there times when you found that it's an advantage that you don't come from that world?
100%. Yeah, it's almost like a superpower in a way. It's a super strength because you can see it from a new perspective. You can see what's important. One of the things I'm most proud of is working with researchers to enable them to see not just what they're good at, because they're asked to do that from the minute they start an academic life, from school all the way through to PhD and beyond. What are you good at? Evidence that. But actually, what are you good for? So what's the purpose of this research? What are the benefits that you're trying to achieve for the rest of us? And so having that perspective, that real world perspective, and I get really told off, and hands up, fair enough, real world versus research world, but I'm sticking with it because it's worked well for me so far, where having that connection without that direct involvement has been really useful. The skills that you need to be an effective professional researcher are very similar to the enterprise focus, the mindset, the behavior of spotting problems to solve and doing something about it, being curious in the world. And because of this imposter phenomena that seems to be just a big part of researcher life, allowing them to see their value in anywhere that's not academia is really super valuable. So the evidence, so researchers are keen on evidence and fact. Here it is, and from that careers perspective as well, working in the career service for so long, connecting those two worlds continues to be a really important part of the work that I do. And so I came with experience, understanding, and interest in both industry and academia, as we narrow it down into two camps. The language is an interesting one, but nonetheless that's how it's talked about. It's helped me to see things differently, but it's helped me to provide that perspective for others as well. So, I'm told often that that's helpful in terms of career progression too. So it's an interesting one. I've had to learn a lot though, definitely.
Now, it's like sometimes the joy of being research adjacent, though, is that you get all these little snippets of all the different research things that are going on. So every day's a school day in that respect. And it's been something new.
Exactly that. And the word adjacent is the joyous thing here for me. When I first heard that term and you helped me to connect with that, it's like, at last, of course, that's what it is. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And you're right, because I mean, colleagues and I used to laugh about how we've just felt all the more informed and a little bit more clever, to be honest, just by hanging out with these people by osmosis, by being in the room when they're talking about all these amazing, life-changing things. And I'm not just talking about the big eureka wow stuff, just even let's just tweak this a little bit, and we're going to save so many people from problems and challenges. That in itself is super innovative and really, really clever, but also purposeful. And so just being alongside it, being adjacent to all of these cool things happening, is eye-opening. And you see the world from a new perspective yourself, and having those doors opened, and you're welcomed in, is a real privilege. Because I'd never be able to commit the time to doing a PhD or any sort of research project. I'm just not built that way. But they bring me along for the ride. They hold my hand and say, come on, Jenny, come and look at this. And it's just such a joyous experience. Really terrifying as well. I've learned stuff that perhaps I shouldn't know about just yet. but nonetheless, that in itself, I feel pleased and really grateful that people have trusted me with their work, and help them to share it with others as well. So the adjacency, if that's a word, being adjacent to these fabulous people has been incredible. And it's similar with the business coaching as well. So my clients, their links with the research environment has helped me to learn a lot more as well through them. So it's a lifelong learning experience for sure. Certainly do not know it all, despite what feels like hundreds of years of doing this. There's still more to find out for sure.
Yeah, always. We've got there in a little bit into some of the things that you get personally out of the work that you do. Are there any particular things that you've been part of, that you're really proud of?
Yeah, one in particular jumps out, and well, there's actually several, but one sort of steps forward beyond the others. And it feeds into what I was saying earlier about having this new perspective within a research intensive environment of asking, who are the people? So the stage before the research happens, why did these people wake up one morning and say, this is what I'm going to do today? And with colleagues, fantastic colleagues who were really inspirational and really up for having a new challenge, we pulled together a residential program that ran for quite a few years, that was a Northeast collaboration with Northern Accelerator as well, to help develop researchers. And from that, some people then went on to commercialize their research, to achieve really significant funding. And the joyous thing for that was not just the results of it, but actually the collaboration between the regional universities. And I think the Northeast is incredibly good at that. Friends are a big part of making good stuff happen. And so that wasn't just immediate colleagues, it was those networks across the region as well. And that made quite a lot of noise across the country. So we were able to share that at conferences and things. And so the personal impact for me was, wow, we've made something significant here. We've also taken a bit of a risk. This is unusual what we're doing. And we had the priority and the focus of what we began to call permission to play. So this was inviting researchers to be proud of what they've accomplished in terms of their academic success, but remember what it is to be curious and creative, almost like being childlike again, and saying, how big could this be? How fast could this fly, kind of thing. And how they related to their research. So we brought people right back to day one, where they had the fizzy feel good about, this is what I'm here to do, and I'm excited by it, before the real world of research suddenly gets part of their day to day. So we brought people right back to that starting point again. And I'm still in touch with several of the participants who get in touch and say, and we gave them permission to show off as well. I think in research, in professional research, it's a tricky one to do, to stand forward and say, I did a good thing. So we gave that permission to play, to explore, but also to say, I'm proud of this. So in response, I'm personally proud that we gave those people a chance to say it out loud. And it did them good. Their shoulders went back, their voices were louder in every sense. So that was absolutely brilliant. And I think just having that connection as well, between, you've done all this great stuff, what's the point? Why have you done that? And it's a blunt question, but ultimately the principle's important. So that people feel that they're valid, that they're doing something that's being noticed, recognized for its worth, and is usable and is productive, irrespective of the teeny tiny niche that some folks find themselves in. It's still connected to society. So that's something that I've seen work well as part of the work that I've been involved in. And that starts off its own sort of momentum and culture, rather than head down, on the lab bench or in the office or in the field work. It's eyes up. Is this going? I'm going to be more strategic as well as get the work done. So so that feels like a success.
It sounds like it. Is that still going? Is it? I know that you've,
as far as I know,
moved on now.
I've moved on from the university, but there's a fantastic organisation called Skillfluence, who are based in Glasgow, who work across the world and are developer specialists. Alison Gray heads up the team there, and they took that on in collaboration with Northern Accelerators. So the principles of all of that have continued.
Great.
Focus on the people as well, making fantastic research has continued as well. So
fantastic. Do you know if there's links to that or anything people could find any information about it?
Skillfluence is certainly very prominent online.
We can find their
links. So we can add some of the contacts to
so
any
people
notes.
Can go and look that up if they want to find out more. Fantastic. That sounds like a brilliant program. I love this, the whole permission to play idea, because and keeping that curiosity alive, I think, as you say, is so important in research as well.
Definitely, because we can get bogged down. We all do it, irrespective of what jobs we do or how we spend our day. We can get bogged down in the email box or the laundry basket or the stuff that needs doing just to get life done. And we can begin to forget why we get up in the morning. I keep referring to that, but there has to be some sort of motivation every morning, because bed is lovely, it's warm, cozy. Why would we leave it? There has to be a good reason. And researchers need sometimes reminding of that at certain stages in their career. So revisiting that is joyous, but also that permission to play is really good fun. And it's about trust as well. And they come into a room and we did mad games with them, and I still do this now in my own practice, where if you spot me on social media, you'll see that I've got people to wave their arms in the air and touch their toes, and we do jigsaw puzzles and we do lots of drawing, and the pens come out. And my son is part of Careers Week this week. He's only 9 at school, and they asked, what does your mum do? And he was tempted. He told me to say that she colours in. That's what she's seeing, the big pens and the paper. But thankfully, he was able to articulate it in a clearer way about helping people solve problems and make good decisions. But he's seen the kit, and anyone who works with me has seen the kit. So I come with Post-it notes and cutouts of all sorts of things. So getting involved in creating things. We are, as human beings, very creative. And it's just remembering that and allowing that to remain professional. So, I'm a very lucky person to get to colour in a lot. There we go. That's what I do.
It makes my heart lift if I go into a meeting and there's pens and post-it notes and
exactly. Yes, we're not just going to sit and listen. We get to do something. I'm a big fan as well.
Fab. As you'll know if you listened to some of the episodes before, I like to ask my guests if they had a magic wand and an unlimited budget, what they would change about their little corner of the research adjacent world.
What a fantastic question. And when will this happen? Is this actually happening, Sarah? You have the magic wand.
I have the magic wand, yes. It's tucked down here. You only get it if I'm satisfied with the answer.
All right, fair enough. I think for me, it's remembering it's allowing researchers to show up as their authentic selves. So I work with researchers at all different stages of career, and the further up the hierarchy ladder of career, the more people doubt their ability. And I think that would surprise a PhD student on day one of their PhD. What really, those senior academics who are on the global stage talking about their life-changing, world-changing research are doubting themselves? Yes, they are. And I would, with your magic wand, with full permission, please change that as quickly as possible. Let's do it tomorrow morning, because everybody who's got to that stage have done it through blood, sweat, and tears. They've done it through experience and skill and explaining who they are and why they're there. And I think championing that is the way forward. I think the old school way of measuring success needs to reduce in its impact. So by that, I mean metrics. How much money have you brought in? Where are the grants coming from? How many publications have you had? How many times did you write it down? You know, they're important. I get that. And I know that people who are listening to this might question my questioning of that. However, I would back that up with a real focus on, what are your natural skills and talents? Why are you here? What's the benefit that we will all gain from you doing this work? And thank you. A big thank you. Thank goodness you're in the room. You know, you're here, you showed up to work today, and you'll make a difference. And I think really focusing, shining a big bright light on that would be my magic wand moment. However, there needs to be an awful lot of supporting stuff around, making people feel credible and valued, and that certainly is about reliable jobs. So you know, the unbalanced way that short-term contracts work for those who are just at that stage in career of wanting to really commit to something, it makes you question your own ability. And if I just try a bit harder, if I just stay a bit longer in the lab or in the office or in, you know, wherever I work, then I'll prove myself more, and that just ends up in a mess. So alongside creating this real sense of I'm here because I've worked hard for it, and I'm justified in being here for all of my experience and expertise, it's that supporting infrastructure as well of reliable jobs and funding, being in all the right places. So this is a big magic wand that I think I'm asking for.
See what I can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, just once everyone relaxes and this magic wand has done its thing, then those cultural shifts of permission to play and try something and get involved outside of comfort zones will just become all the more natural and available. So the culture within research just becomes a bit more buoyant, and people can collaborate a little easier as well, because they're happy to share what they've got and not feel that it's all competitive.
Yeah, I think that sounds like an excellent future. Definitely sign me up for that.
Good. Thank
Magic
you.
wand granted.
Thank you.
So you've already mentioned a few of the people that you've worked with over the years. Are there any other people out there in your little space doing some really impressive work that you'd like to tell us about?
Thank you. This is really hard, because honestly, I am the luckiest person ever. I get to work with these impressive people. But the thing that I've really noticed about where I'm positioned, and it's not just since being self-employed, but actually all throughout my research adjacent career, is that the people that stand out are really good at what they do, but they're really nice people as well. They're super generous, really supportive, really interesting and interested. And that for me is all I need, you know, and that I'm super lucky to be part of quite a large network of folks who are doing things like that. The Northeast I've mentioned before is a true community in terms of researchers. That's what I've seen happen. That's what I'm told often. So there's various different people. Sam King at Northumbria University. She's relatively new in her post, but is super ambitious about supporting researchers. and the development of the people within the research community there. Paul Stafford at Durham University as well. He's part of the enterprise crew over there who are doing incredible things. They are really people to keep an eye on. And Paul specializes in working with researchers and making great things happen. Outside of higher education, I'm very lucky to work with Simon Brown, who has pioneered the iCure program, which helps researchers to commercialize their research and share it with the rest of us. He's a fascinating person, and again, a really lovely person to hang out with and spend time from. I've learned a lot from him. Laura Evans Hill, so she's part of Nifty Fox, which is a creative practice who helps researchers to, and other people, large organizations, to explain what they do in such a way that we all care, but does that through visual design. And I had the pleasure of working with Steve Joy recently, and his surname is the best and most appropriate surname I've ever come across. He is head to toe full of joy and supports researchers in such a way that they're able to make great career choices, to notice what they're good at, who they are, and then and apply that to the jobs rather than trying to fit into a job. So he's a really good advocate of being authentic, showing up as who you are, and he's part of the academic the postdoc academy at Cambridge University. But he also works in lots of other different places as well. So there's plenty of people, everyone who's on the podcast, of course, Sarah, you know, the folks I've had the pleasure of working with, a few of them so far, and I'm looking forward to finding out who else you get to connect with, because you'll find it too, I'm sure, that there are some awesome people out there, and they're happy people, and that's just a lovely thing. So I could go on and on, but I appreciate I'm not allowed to. So you all know who you are, I think, is the best the best way to say it.
Lovely. I think what I've tried to do with this whole podcast is this idea of lifting people up, helping people find each other, shining that spotlight on some of the people and the great work that they're doing. So yes, always happy to share the love.
Wonderful.
So it just remains then, Jenny, to say, if people want to find out more about you and the work that you do, where can people track you down?
I'm as established on social media as I can be, so you can find me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. The website is currently under construction, which is the age-old term, and it's a bit it is happening though. I'm very lucky that my other half is very clever at doing this web design stuff, so he's helping me with that at the minute, and that's been really interesting actually, because I've had to be really clear on what it is that I do in order to write it down. Social media is the easiest place right now, and email as well. I'm as responsive as I can be to that. I always ask people as well, if they want to come and have a conversation with me, then brilliant. But if they want to speak to someone I've worked with as well, then I have plenty of people who are seemingly happy to share that. So if they need any recommendations, then I can sort that out too. So come and say hello, and I'm a big fan as well, I mentioned this already, of people showing off about what's going well. I know LinkedIn is full of this, but also the genuine ones really stand out, the ones who say, I had a try at something and it worked out. I'm really interested in that too. So if anyone wants to come and show off about something that's working well for them, then Twitter's a good place for that for me. And I encourage that as much as possible. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that's lovely. I'm sure some people will want to come and track you down after this episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and have a chat. It's been really interesting.
It's always fun to do this and to talk about what we do as researcher adjacent professionals, and it's a genuine pleasure to be part of something like this, because it's been, when I first heard about it, I think I said to you, where have you been all my life? Because finally someone's come up with the wording and created the community and allowed us to speak about what we do, because honestly, without this kind of work, the wheels don't turn as well as they could. So thank you for including me as part of the gang.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed listening to all of the other the podcast episodes so far. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm in. I'll be sharing.
Thank you. That's very kind. As you described yourself, Captain Research Adjacent.
Yes.
Signing in for duty.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to Research Adjacent. If you're listening in a podcast app, please check you're subscribed and then use the links under the episode to find full show notes and to follow the podcast on LinkedIn, Twitter or Instagram. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to the Research Adjacent Roundup newsletter. You can also find all the links and other episodes at www.researchadjacent.com. Research Adjacent is presented and produced by Sarah McCluskey, and you, yes you, get a big gold star for listening right to the end. See you next time.